Alrighty, so welcome everyone. Thank you so much for joining us here today. Welcome to the fourth day of the GradFUTURES, the GradFUTURES Forum Professional Development Conference, hosted by the Graduate School at Princeton University. My name is Peter Kraus, and I'm the Assistant Director for Graduate Experiential Programs on the GradFUTURES team. Now in its sixth year, we're thrilled to host a full week of transformative professional development and career exploration for a diverse graduate community of talented scholars, researchers, and leaders at Princeton and other institutions. With participants from more than 60 graduate institutions across the globe and counting, we come together to learn, to explore, and to forge meaningful connections this week. We're so happy that you're here. This year's conference theme, Meeting the Moment, reflects our collective commitment to navigate current challenges with purpose and with vision. We're deeply grateful to our exceptional speakers and panelists who will share their expertise, practical advice, and inspiration throughout the week. Our team has carefully crafted a program that aims to empower you with clarity, with practical skills, with valuable connections, and with a renewed sense of agency. While there may be questions this week for which none of us have the answers right now, we are dedicated to providing information and support you with real-time relevance to your success in graduate school and beyond. We hope you will join us for additional sessions this afternoon and tomorrow, and that you will find the conference both enriching and inspiring. Now, it is my great pleasure to introduce our two speakers. Laura Murray is an educator, psychologist, and co-founder of the Graduate Thriving and Learning Connection, or GradTLC. I love that acronym. As a former grad student not too long ago myself, we all need some TLC. A former assistant director at the McGraw Center for Teaching and Learning at Princeton, Laura was a GradFUTURES University Administrative Fellowship Mentor and is a recipient of the Graduate School's Clio Hall Award. Kate Thorpe, Star 21 English, is a teacher, writer, and co-founder of GradTLC as well. A former instructional designer at the McGraw Center for Teaching and Learning at Princeton, as well as an educational developer for Princeton's Office of the Dean of the College, Kate is also a former GradFUTURES University Administrative Fellow, which is very special for me to share in particular, because that's part of the program that I work with. Thank you both for joining us, and I'll turn it over to you.
Thank you so much, Peter, and welcome everyone. I'm Laura Murray, and I'm going to attempt to share my slides. So give me one moment here. Okay, as Peter mentioned, the title of our talk, our presentation with you today is Designing Your Future for PhD Students, a Primer. Okay, so again, I'm Laura. I'm an educator and psychologist, and as Peter mentioned, I spent over 6 years working at Princeton in the Center for Teaching and Learning to build out programs to support graduate students to learn and thrive. And today I have my fabulous collaborator and colleague with me, Dr. Kate Thorpe. Kate, you want to say hi?
Sure. Hi everyone. Welcome. I'm Kate. I'm a PhD alum from Princeton in English, as Peter mentioned, and I worked with Laura at McGraw, and then as an instructional designer there, developing resources to support teaching and learning and launching virtual writing accountability groups for graduate students.
Kate did all kinds of wonderful work. So we're experts in supporting graduate students. And we're committed to making what we like to call the vast hidden curriculum of doctoral education in particular more visible and navigable, all while helping grad students to actually, hopefully, enjoy grad school and flourish.
Thank you so much for joining us today.
Okay, so we're going to spend the next hour or so helping you to start the greatest challenge of your life. Even bigger, perhaps, than completing your PhD or your medical degree or your master's, if you can believe it. It's designing your life. We know that robust professional development programs encourage exploration of interests and career options, and that's incredibly important and wonderful. However, career and broader life decisions are inextricably connected, and today we'd like to shine a spotlight on that connection. So in this workshop, we'll take a cue from the best-selling book, Designing Your Life, which is by authors Bill Burnett and Dave Evans, and we'll adapt some of their strategies to your experience as graduate students, knowing that likely many of you are doctoral students, but that we probably have professional students and master's students here as well. So welcome. So our goal today is we want to help you to begin to harness design theory and thinking to plan your futures during graduate school as well as after graduate school, all in an effort to create a satisfying, integrated, and coherent life. In order to do that, we'll invite you to consider some key questions that you see here on the slide, such as, what is important to me? How am I using my time? And what comes next? And hopefully by the end of the hour, you'll have articulated one specific personal goal and conceived of an action step that you can take now or very soon to move forward toward that goal. Oh, Kate,
I just realized, yeah. So given those learning goals, here's a quick plan for our time together today. First, we'll use a tool called Mentimeter to ask you about what is important to you as a graduate student, especially your values at this moment in time. And then we'll offer a brief primer in design thinking, as Laura described, and you'll have some time to complete what we call the wheel of grad school life. Then you'll plan your action step, and the rest is up to you. We'll also leave a few minutes at the end of the hour to engage with your questions and comments. Now, we're going to do a quick Mentimeter poll to get started. Some of you are likely already familiar with Mentimeter, but if not, don't worry. It's very easy to use and a way for you to participate and respond to some prompts on the fly. Think of it like a virtual whiteboard, but anonymous. As we turn to Mentimeter, we're going to reflect on our values. Before we turn to the actual poll, we want to take a look at the questions you'll see, just to give you a sense of what the possibilities for answering might be, and let you start to think about your possible answers. So the first question we'll be asking is, what is something very important to you right now? On this slide, we've shared some examples, but when we get to the poll, feel free to write whatever is authentic for you. So for example, maybe you're focused on learning some new technical skills in your lab right now, or maybe it's something less specific and more about developing expertise in your field. Maybe you've completed your coursework and are preparing your first paper for submission to a journal. Maybe you're working hard to keep in touch with your relatives at home in your home country, or you have a spouse or partner and you prioritize spending quality time with them despite your busy schedule. Or maybe you simply want to get enough sleep. And this may sound silly, but it's essential for well-being and can be hard to do, especially in grad school. Okay, so that's going to be the first question that you'll see as we get to the Mentimeter poll.
And then the second question that you'll see is, why do you do the work that you do? And we wanted to clarify here that by work, we mean your scholarship as a graduate student or your current career if you are an alum or a higher education administrator or working otherwise. So kind of a broad definition. Again, we're offering some examples on the slide, but they're in no way meant to be prescriptive. So you might, you might be pursuing a PhD because you want to become rich and famous. Maybe you should pursue another career. No, just kidding. Or, all joking aside, maybe you have a burning question that you've been curious about for a long time, and you really do want to try to answer it, or at least get closer to answering it. Maybe you, excuse me, stood on the beach as a little kid and yelled, "Save the manatees," and you've been focused on marine biology and manatee habitats ever since. Or maybe you want to make your parents proud. Perhaps you truly love science and are happiest when you're at the bench in the lab. Or maybe you love 18th century poetry and you have something to say about that. So again, all joking aside, the point here is there are no wrong answers. The scope can be wide or narrow. And we're really hoping that this is an opportunity for you to think about your big why. Okay, so those are the two upcoming Mentimeter questions. So I'm going to stop sharing these slides for a moment. And Kate, can I pass the baton to you for Mentimeter?
Yeah.
Great. You all have a moment to think about those questions. Why do you do the work that you do? And what is something very important to you right now?
Hey, so can you all see that the Mentimeter poll? Perfect. So what you can do is go to menti.com on your phone or on another web page on your browser. And you want to type in the code 53963641. And you should see this first question. You should see the question, and then you should be able to just type in your answer right there. And it should appear. It's all anonymous, as we mentioned. Right, so a whole variety of answers I'm already seeing here. From publishing my first journal article, that's wonderful, to relationships, to having a good balance between personal and academic life. That's such a challenge and so important. Finishing a dissertation, I remember that moment distinctly. That is such an important moment. Publishing papers, learning new skills, family work-life balance, absolutely. Financial goals, developing expertise, wonderful. Thank you all so much for sharing. Finding a job, finishing my dissertation. Yep. Gaining skills, improving the lives of others. Yeah. A good life now, absorbing knowledge. This is great. Prayer time. Yeah, wonderful. Family work balance, gaining expertise. Wonderful. I'll give it maybe another minute and then we'll move on.
I have to say that I'm noting that someone did write they would like to get more sleep. I
Ah.
identify with that. Yeah.
Great. Wonderful. Okay, let's move on to the next question. Why do you do the work that you do? And you should now see this question appear.
We have a kindred spirit in our midst to mainstream mental health and foster communities of support. Yay.
Ah, wonderful. Strong research interest, passion for teaching. Absolutely. It's interesting, limitless application. Yeah, explore my interests, see where it leads me. Wow, yeah, mitigate the negative consequences AI has in our relationships. That's awesome because I'm good at it. Awesome. Promote health equity, enjoyment, interest, contributions, explore my interest, entrepreneurial success. That's great. I want to help people and foster equity, passion, and helping others. It can be fun. I love that. Yeah, to help improve people's lives around the world. Unlocking new love of research. I really enjoy the whole scientific process of working towards a fundamental question. Great. Yeah. I love how much enjoyment you all get, like we all get from our work. That is wonderful. Enjoyment and interest. And also a sense of it's meaningful beyond. Hear all of that. Yeah, I like to be helpful because I'm uniquely good at it. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, increase options, possibilities in the job market. Yeah, makes me feel important. Great.
Hey.
Great. Okay. So, well, thank you all so much for sharing and for reflecting on these questions. I'm going to go ahead and stop sharing.
And again, thank you so much for taking a few minutes to think about what's important to you, what you prioritize, and what's of value to you in your life, and also sort of the big why, what drives you to do the important work that you're doing. So now that you've taken a few minutes to think about those things, we're going to transition a little bit into helping you to think like a designer. So we're going to introduce the idea of design thinking. And I will share my screen again. Okay. And
Oh,
should
so
I?
design, sorry, go ahead.
Oh, go right ahead.
Okay, so design thinking, at least in its current form, has been around for about 35 years. It was originally developed to bring a human-centered approach to product creation. It focuses on understanding users' needs, generating creative ideas to address these needs, and testing solutions. Put simply, design thinking is about designing new products or approaches to solve real problems for real people. And the process involves the following steps: empathizing or understanding the user, defining or clarifying the problem, need, or opportunity, ideating, developing ideas for solutions, prototyping, building out a solution, testing, and then implementing it more broadly, assessing whether it's working, and iterating. So it's a kind of a circular process. And it's very human-centered in terms of what actually works for humans.
Okay, so now we're going to link that brief background on design thinking with the book that we referenced at the top of the hour called Designing Your Life. So again, this is by Bill Burnett and Dave Evans. Burnett is the executive director of the Life Design Lab at Stanford. And Evans is a lecturer in the product design program at Stanford and also the co-founder of Electronic Arts for any video game aficionados in the house. So together they developed a very, very popular course at Stanford for their undergrads initially called Designing Your Life. They started it several years ago, and then 3 years ago came out with this book, which is based on the course. And it is really about the process of taking design thinking and applying it to one's own life. So Burnett and Evans are engineers and designers themselves by training, and they posit that designers build their way forward. They also offer a useful definition proposing that a quote, well-designed life is a life that makes sense. It's a life in which who you are, what you believe, and what you do all line up. And we think that's very helpful. They also say in the book that life is a journey. So to the degree that it's possible, they encourage us to let go of the end goal or goals and really try to focus on the process to see where we are now and what's happening next. And we think that that's very helpful as well, particularly in graduate school, when the goal, whatever it might be, completing your dissertation, getting a job postgraduate school, might seem far away. There are things that we can do now that will make it more likely that we're able to achieve those further away goals. So, what aspects of this process are we going to focus on today? So obviously we have limited time, but we'd like to focus, number one, on better understanding the user, and that's you in this case. And number two, clarifying what Evans and Burnett call a problem. What's the problem to be solved? Or to rephrase or reframe this, we might say, what's an opportunity for change or development in your life? And then eventually, what's an action step that you can take toward addressing that change. Okay, so that's where we're headed. Okay, so why use design thinking for your life as a PhD student? Let's face it, despite our best intentions, life always surprises us when we cannot plan everything perfectly, even if we try our hardest. So according to Designing Your Life, quote, there are many versions of each of us, and they are all right. So we share this quote in particular because we want to remind you that there isn't just one solution for your life, and that's a good thing. There are many solutions or designs, and hopefully being reminded of that feels somewhat liberating as opposed to daunting. So there are many, many possible successful paths for you in your life now and going forward. And again, it's not all about the destination. It's really about the experience that's important. So because we become more and more specialized as we move forward in the PhD, it can be harder to remember these many different paths that are open to us once we finish the degree and the wide, diverse range of skills that we've learned that we can apply in various contexts. Okay, so indeed, your life is always about designing something that has never existed before. And that's daunting, but also exciting, we think.
So trust us, we know there are a lot of challenges in graduate school. So finding a problem to address should be pretty easy. And the good news is that you're graduate students. You are really good at solving problems. In fact, as PhD students, you are being trained to identify and solve research problems with curiosity and creativity every day. You're already in great shape. Now, just imagine that the research problem or question is you. We have limited time today, of course, but we'd like to lead you through an activity now to help you begin this process of problem finding and problem solving, at least in one aspect of your busy, complicated, and exciting lives. And remember, if it's not actionable, it's not a problem. This is a reminder that some things are immutable, like gravity, and they call these actually gravity problems. We're not going to waste our time trying to change something that can't be changed. Instead, we'll focus on what we do have some control over.
Okay, so we're going to give you a little bit of background to set up the activity, and then we'll actually give you all a few minutes to do this activity. So what you're looking at now is an adapted wheel of life. So if you Google wheel of life, or sometimes it's called the wheel of well-being, depending on the version, you'll find different versions online. But the general idea is that it's meant to be a tool to give you a snapshot of how you're feeling about the different domains of your life at this moment in time. So as you see, it's made up of concentric circles, kind of like a bullseye. And then the circle is divided into what we call slices of the pie. And you can create one yourself. It can have as many slices or as few as you like, 6, 8, 10, etc. And on the sample slide, you see that those different slices have already been labeled. So community, spirituality, health, career, etc. But in a moment, we're actually going to give you an example of a blank one of these that you can fill out yourself. And you can also feel free to, if you have a pen and paper in front of you, to just draw your own wheel and make your own slices. So how you do it is, again, this is meant to help you assess your level of satisfaction in various domains of your life at this moment in time. And then after you do that, it's meant to prompt you to think about how you might like to revise something in one or more of these slices, so that the way you spend your time and the activities that you choose are more in alignment with what your values are or what's important to you. So the goal here is to, again, explore your levels of satisfaction and then think about ways to better align what you desire with how you're actually conducting your life on a daily basis. So after you have your circle, and again, we'll share a link in a second, what you're going to do for the activity is label your slices. Again, we don't want to be prescriptive, so you can choose to label them in whatever ways are most meaningful for you. And then after they're labeled, you're going to go through and imagine that the center of the bullseye is a 0, and each line moving out toward the outer edge of the circle is labeled with the number 1 through 10. And you're then going to make a mark on each slice according to the number that represents your level of satisfaction in that domain. So on the example here to the right, you see that perhaps this person isn't quite satisfied in their friends domain. You know, that may be because they don't feel like they have enough time to socialize with their friends, or perhaps they're far away from friends, or they'd like to cultivate new friendships. But whatever it is, because that's sort of one of the lowest levels, they might want to try to address that. Okay, so without further ado, let's put the link to the
I
handout in
just put
the
it in the
chat.
chat.
Okay, great. So you all should have a link to a Google handout that looks like this, except it's blank. And
It will prompt you to, sorry, one second, it will prompt you to create your own copy. So when you click on this, you'll just be prompted, and then that will be your copy. No one else can see. I'm so sorry, Laura.
no, that's fine. So what we're going to do now is we're actually going to give everybody 5 minutes. I know that's not a lot of time, so if you don't complete the activity, that's okay, but at least get started. You'll take 5 minutes, and we're going to just mute ourselves here, and we'll keep track of the time, and then we'll invite you back after you've had some time to start to create your own wheel of life. Okay? All right, onward. And if you have any questions or concerns, please feel free to write them in the chat. Thanks. Okay, 5 minutes starts now. Okay, welcome back, everyone. That was 5 minutes. And again, it's okay if you did not complete your wheel of life. We're hoping that you at least were able to start and think about what those important domains are for you, and also to begin to reflect on your levels of satisfaction in various domains. All right, so I'm going to stop sharing my screen here. And now that you've started to think about the wheel of life, we're going to invite you back to Mentimeter. We had another question for you to consider, and we invite you to respond anonymously through Mentimeter again.
Okay, so I'm going to share my screen again. And if you go back to that same Mentimeter poll in your phone or your browser window, you should now see a new question appear. And if you got out of that, you can just join it again. Join at menti.com and use code 53963641. And the question is, are you satisfied with the various aspects of your life? And basically, how satisfied? So there are different levels you can choose. Great, I can see it just recalibrating as more people are voting. Seems like somewhat satisfied is the winner right now. It looks like at least one person is satisfied completely. That's fantastic. Yeah, so we have a wide range. Most people are not completely satisfied. So we are definitely seeing a problem come up, which is actually what we're looking for. We're looking for a problem to solve. And information to gather around your future life that you're designing and what's working for you now and what might work in the future. Great. Thank you all for voting. A pretty nice scale now between satisfied completely and somewhat satisfied, which is still the definite winner. Looks like 22 people have voted. Should I give it another minute, Laura?
Why don't we, in the
Move on.
interest of
Let's
time,
move
move
on.
on to the next question?
Do your activities align with your values? So what did you discover from doing this activity? And we just talked about our values align completely. Great. Okay, yes, somewhat aligned. It looks like we have a pretty good mix between fairly well aligned, aligned completely, and somewhat aligned. Great. Yeah, so there's a lot to work with in terms of things. There are some things that really are working, and then there are some places where you're seeing some discrepancies between what you're doing with your life and what you value. That is all really useful information. Again, no judgment. It's all about gathering information at this stage. All right, in the interest of time, I'm going to move on to the next slide. What's one life domain where you'd like to improve your satisfaction? Creativity. Nice. Finance. Great. Really practical. Health. Really important. Cosmic meaning. Oh, I love that. Health. Great. Work, colleagues. Time for scholarship. Skills. Awesome. Would be great to build my community. Yeah. Really hard for introverts and also hard after the pandemic. I feel like we're kind of coming back from that still, at least I am. Health. Great. Execution of ideas, passion products, fantastic. Time management, always so tough. Work-life balance, community, great. Yeah, finance, fitness, finance. It's a really important one. Yeah, great. Local community, keep scrolling up. Research, great. Yeah, there's a lot of themes here, a lot of reverberating themes that you're not alone in wanting community, for example, or needing work-life balance, or wanting to focus on health or finance. And fun, I love that. Both finding time for fun and finding fun in what I do. That is awesome. Research training, yeah, great. Dating, absolutely. Career. Family and work balance.
I
Great.
just wanted to jump in and say that all
Yeah.
of your responses are a perfect snapshot of the multiple domains and dimensions that go into well-being. So the concept of well-being or thriving is multidimensional, right? And in graduate school, we know that it's likely that there's a focus on scholarship and scholarly success. And in addition, what you're sharing here shows that, of course, that's an important slice of the pie of your life, if you will, but you have all of these other slices that are equally important to attend to in different ways. And if you're not fully satisfied in one of those areas, the good news is you can intentionally work on making some changes. So that's where we're going to head next.
And you can make changes for now, and that can also help give you information about planning for the future. All right, so I'm going to stop sharing. Thank you all for contributing, and we will come back to Mentimeter in a minute.
Okay, I'm going to share my slides again. Okay, so again, we walked you through the wheel of life rather quickly, but in an effort to get you to start thinking about these things. And so on this slide, we just had a few additional prompts for you to consider now and hopefully to continue to reflect on after this afternoon. So the first is, did anything surprise you about this activity? And actually, if you are bold and willing, if you'd like to write a response in the chat, please feel free. But otherwise, this is just something for you to reflect on. Any surprises come up for you about how you're using the time in your life, the 24 hours in your day, or the choices you're making? Second bullet point and prompt, what did you learn about your current life regarding what is potentially working really well and maybe what isn't working as well as you would like? And I think a lot of your responses on that last Mentimeter prompt gestured toward this, some things that you want to do more of or some things perhaps that you want to do less of. And then the last bullet point is, all of this thinking and the activity, really, its purpose is to get you to this point of, okay, if you've identified an area where you are less satisfied than you would like to be, what can you do about it, right? So this goes back to this idea of design thinking. And if there's a problem, or again, a reframe, an opportunity for a change, what ideas do you have about making a change? Whether it's, I would like to incorporate more fun into my week, or I would like to get more sleep, or I would like to make progress on the manuscript that I'm working on. What things can you do to bring about those changes? Okay. So that leads us to this idea of charting a future goal. What comes next?
So we're going to return to the Mentimeter poll again, do just a couple more questions.
And you'll see that the upcoming questions are what you see on the slide. First, what are barriers to potentially bringing your goal of change to fruition, right? So if it's, I'd like to get more sleep, maybe is your goal, or I want to incorporate more fun. Are there certain challenges or barriers, either internal to you, right? Maybe it's motivational, or external. Is it something about your program or the environment that makes it challenging to do that? So that's question number one. And then question number two that you'll see is, what's one small action you can make today or tomorrow to move forward toward this goal? And we want to really emphasize the idea of a concrete, small action step, right? It doesn't have to be, oh my gosh, finish my dissertation. No, it could be a tiny step. Maybe tomorrow I'm going to spend 5 minutes doing a free write, and that will help to kind of get the juices flowing, and allow me to then maybe do 10 minutes of writing that's directly related to my dissertation. So small action steps. Okay. I'll stop sharing again.
I'm going to share. Okay, so we're already seeing some answers here. That's fantastic. So lots of barriers for sure, which makes a lot of sense. Time and energy, finances and time, motivation and time, power relations, absolutely. Struggling with self-motivation, being overworked, yeah. Yeah, COVID's definitely a barrier. Professionally, fear of taking risks, absolutely. More time, going on walks, yeah. Price of childcare, I understand that completely, completely empathize. Priorities with earlier deadlines that have to take precedence. Choice of employment areas and positions where I excel. Yep. So there are lots of things to keep in mind, that make it hard. Like what we're doing is not easy. In more places for training, political situation, yeah, absolutely. Lack of time to exercise, yep. Yeah, not having sufficient energy. Yeah. Okay. Thank you all so much for sharing. This is really helpful to keep in mind. Feeling like I shouldn't do things other than work. Yeah, absolutely. That is really hard to create balance, to maintain balance, and there's internal and external barriers. Okay, in the interest of time, I'm gonna move on to the final slide. What is one small action you can take today or tomorrow to move toward your goal, despite these barriers? And we'll keeping the barriers in mind, they absolutely exist. What can we do? Where do we have agency to make a change right now? And as Laura mentioned, it can be incredibly small. And we know from research that starting small is a really important way to make substantive changes, to build new habits.
Move toward action. That's great. And that is in alignment with what Kate was just mentioning. Many of us think, oh, I have to wait for the muse to strike before I can start writing. And actually, there's a lot of empirical evidence to show that the opposite is true. If we do the thing first, if we take action, even if we don't feel like it, then the motivation comes after we've begun the action. I see another one here. Take a step of working. Great. Take my dogs for a walk. Drink more water. I need to do both of those things. And my dog is sleeping underneath my desk right now. Email my advisors. Great.
I love the idea of blocking time on the calendar. I've been doing that, and it really, really helps to just have an actual physical time when it's easier to set boundaries then. It won't be perfect, but it will be done. The chapter, yeah. I love that. Identify and name tasks I'm procrastinating on. Yeah, that's starting kind of like what we're doing right now, that naming things, kind of taking stock is a first step to change. I love it. Make a list of fun things I can do with small amounts of time. Yeah. Yeah, find a way to manage my tasks so it doesn't feel overwhelming.
Okay. So these are fantastic. You've all come up with concrete and specific steps that you could make that seem reasonable and feasible, right? They're not huge, but they're small things that you can experiment with to see if you can bring about some of the change that you're perhaps thinking that you would like. So, in an effort to make it even more likely that you can make these changes, we wanted to bring your attention to one kind of final idea that you see on this slide, which is the power of what we call accountability partners, right? So you all have already identified and articulated something that you'd like to do to make a change in your life. And to make it even more likely that you will actually take that step, you can do a couple things. Number one, write down your behavior change goal and the related action step. So write it down. You can put it on a sticky note on your monitor or on your mirror. But the act of writing it down is correlated with you being more likely to do it. But in addition, you can do a couple of other things. You can recruit someone to be your accountability partner. So that's an even more powerful intervention. So do you have a housemate, a classmate, a peer, a colleague, a relative that you can recruit to help hold you accountable to your plan of action? You likely do. So what you're going to do is you're going to ask them, hey, can you help me hold myself accountable? This is what I'm committing to do. And the sheer act of saying out loud to someone that you have a trusting relationship with that you're committing to do something makes it significantly more likely that you will actually do it. So that's some social psychology, empirical evidence that you can deploy for behavior change. Okay, so we're close to the end of the hour.
And great work. You've identified a problem, an area for growth or change in your life, and you're thinking about how to solve or address it. And you have a lot more information now in play that you can use to solve this problem. You've defined the area and you've considered ways to make a change. Like most things, designing your life is a process. There's no one right way to do it. And that's really important to keep in mind. So if what you try out now doesn't work as planned, no worries, no problem. You can redesign and try again. But that's the beauty of the process. It's all about testing, assessing, and iterating.
And you got this. You know, as we've said a few times now, there's no singular solution or one right way to do this, to design your life and to live your life. So we're confident that even that despite the challenges of being in grad school, that you can all design fulfilling, well-designed lives that make sense, in which who you are and what you believe and what you do are all in alignment, or closer in alignment perhaps than they currently are. We recognize that grad school is really hard. We've been there. And we also recognize that this historical moment is fraught and packed with some uncertainty. But despite all of that, you have agency and autonomy and resilience, and you each can carve your own paths forward. So we commend you. And then lastly, we just wanted to share a little bit about us. As Peter said at the top of the hour, we're both originally Princeton people, and Kate is a PhD alum. And we've taken some of the work that we'd first developed at Princeton and launched a new initiative called GradTLC, the Graduate Thriving and Learning Connection. And our whole mission is to help you thrive now and in your future through fostering community flourishing and scholarly success for grad students. And we also, good news, monthly, we offer free workshops. So if the hour that you spent with us today was useful to you, and we hope that it was, we invite you to check out any of our free workshops. They typically happen on the last Wednesday of the month, and we have the next one is coming up at the end of April. And on the slide here, you can see some of the different topics. They're all specific to graduate students. So we can put the link to our website in the chat. And if you scroll down to the bottom of that page, you'll see these free workshops, and feel free to click on RSVP. We would love to see you again. And
I just want to clarify that all of our programs are for all graduate students around the world, that it's really not Princeton specific at all. So you are absolutely welcome to come to our workshops. Yeah.
yes, thank you for
It's
clarifying that.
fantastic.
Yeah. And we just wanted to say thank you. And we do have a few minutes. If there are questions or comments from anyone in the virtual room, we welcome them at this point. So you can write in the chat, or unmute yourself, or I don't know if you can unmute yourself as a participant, maybe not, but you could write questions in the chat, and we will do our best to respond to them.
Yeah, folks
So
are
as we're waiting, oh, I'm sorry.
Oh, I was just going to add that folks are able to add those in the chat or in the Q&A, and I do see one question in the Q&A already that I can share with you both.
Sure.
Edwina asks, what are the most important aspects of a cold email? And I think at the heart of this question might be something that you gestured at earlier. What are some of those first steps that graduate students can take if they're looking to expand their network intentionally?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, well, I guess my first thought is it depends who the cold email is for, who's the reader, right? Is it a scholar at another institution that you'd like to forge a relationship with? Is it someone that you'd like to meet at an upcoming conference, et cetera? Is it someone that your advisor knows well? And can your advisor make an e-introduction? So whoever is the recipient is obviously sort of important, but in general, I like to advise people to make their emails short and to the point and authentic, right? So I don't know if that's very helpful, but I would try to keep it to just a few sentences. Introduce yourself, say why you're writing to them if they don't already know you, and ask them if they might have 10 or 15 minutes to chat over Zoom, if that's the type of request that you'd like to make. Yeah. Kate, what would you add?
Absolutely. And I'm so sorry. My internet cut out just at the end of that question. So I heard about networking and reaching out to people.
Making
Is
a
that
cold
correct?
email. Yeah.
Making a cold email. Yeah, absolutely. I think being a graduate student, I think people, especially people who have been graduate students before, are incredibly receptive to other graduate students. And when you explain kind of like mention that you're a graduate student, and in your question, I feel like people are incredibly kind, and want to help you. And so yeah, I think explaining kind of like where you saw them, why you're interested in connecting with them, and where you found them, like what about them makes you excited about connecting with them. I think all of that is really helpful. Yeah, it's a great question. Oh, thank you for putting that. I just missed it. Yeah.
And I encourage you all to be bold and to write cold emails.
Absolutely.
Any other questions or comments?
The other thing about a cold email, and you might have said this, Laura, is adding like an ask, like if you want to have, like a very brief conversation with them, maybe to talk about like their particular career trajectory or something like about them. I feel like that like very short, a very small ask can be very helpful, just like a brief phone conversation. And that can go so far.
Yeah, asking something specific and small usually is a good way to begin. Here's another question. Do you have suggestions for applying some of these design principles to dissertation work specifically? Excellent question. So yes, design thinking could absolutely be applied to dissertation work. So if you recall sort of in a nutshell, one of the big ideas in design thinking is that there's a problem to be solved. We're going to usually collaboratively sometimes individually, but usually in a group of collaborators. We are going to ideate and come up with potential solutions. And then we're going to test them out and see if they work or not, and then iterate. So that type of process could be applied to multiple aspects of a dissertation, right? And if you take a meta view, I would argue that the entire dissertation is a process of design thinking, right? You're coming up with your own research question in whatever field, the problem, and you're figuring out a way to address or answer that question or that problem somehow. I don't know if you were looking for something more specific, but
Well, Laura and Kate, thank you both. I want to be mindful of our time. We are at the end of the session here. And I just want to emphasize how grateful we are to both of you for sharing these insights with us. I know that graduate students and early career scholars really appreciate tangible small steps that we can take, and your presentation has been rich with those. So on behalf of
oh,
everyone, let me say thank you.
oh, thank you so much for having us. It's been a pleasure.
Thank
Take
you.
care, everyone.
Thank you all for attending. And before you go, I will put in the chat if you're interested in attending any more of our Grad Futures Forum events. We have an event coming up this evening in person at Princeton's campus. So if you're proximate, please do feel free to come by. And I'll put a link to that here. That is Green Chemistry, Missing Elements by John Warner. And then tomorrow, I'll highlight for you two really compelling online events. I'll put those in the chat here. Very topical, given this present moment. Research funding support and administration. That is tomorrow online at 1 p.m. And then at 2:30 p.m., we have Beyond Borders with my incredible colleague, Sonali Majumdar, designing your future as an international PhD scholar. So again, any and all are welcome to attend. With that, I'll close us out.